I've said this a few times. The number one thing to do if you want to be a successful property investor is find a hobby. That's not got nothing to do with real estate. Because once you buy your properties, leave them hell alone. Leave them alone. Yep. Let
the best properties are the ones you don't know you got, right? They just tick away.
Yep.
You're listening to Property Investor Tales, stories from the front yard. Here's your host, Tabitha Bright.
Hello and welcome to Property Investor Tales, stories from the front yard, where I get to speak to property investors from around Australia about their investing journey. My name's Tabitha Bright and I'm the head of coaching here at Positive Real Estate, where we help people build wealth through property. With over 8,000 clients across Australia and New Zealand, there are some incredible stories to tell, which hopefully make your investing journey that little bit easier and will inspire you along the way. So my guest today is the founder of Positive Real Estate, Jason Whitton. We're super lucky to have him today sharing a lot of the stuff around mindset, because we discuss the importance of being curious, investing in your emotional intelligence, your EQ, and how to get out of a poverty mindset to successfully invest and get great results. So enjoy this conversation with Jason. Well, folks, welcome to the podcast. Today, I'm super excited because I have our founder of Positive Real Estate, Jason Whitton. And Jason is responsible for starting Positive Real Estate. I had him as my coach in the early days of my investing. And we're super, super lucky to have him today, because I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, Jace, if there's one thing I've learned from you over this journey, like you and I have known each other, 14, 15 years now.
Yep.
And if there's one thing I've learned on this journey, it's your mindset and how you view problems and challenges is critical to your success. And I always say to people, if there's one thing about you that I take my hat off to you, is your capacity when there's a challenge to push through it and to pop out the other side, even if everyone's telling you why it can't be done. So tell me, I guess from your perspective, what goes on in your head? Because, there's been some bumps and scrapes.
Just a big question straight out of the gates.
Yeah, sorry, I'm hitting you between the eyes.
No, listen, it's an interesting one. I've been entrepreneurial. I don't know if that's the right word, but attempting to be an entrepreneur for 22 years, and Positive has been going 18. And I do reflect on these things often. But one of the things I think certainly for me, is that I enjoy an adventure. And I've seen all of the experiences that I've been blessed to have, in my life so far, and investing is an experience and an adventure. You and I both know that one.
Yeah.
And anyone listening in, you're like, whoa, this is something interesting and different. And so, I think that for me, the material thing is that I've always loved an adventure. And the idea that learning and understanding something along the way, learning something about yourself, learning something about the world, investing, whatever that might be, has always been kind of like a benefit of an adventure. I've never been one to like much of a sort of an everyday drudgery routine. So, and I think that's, for me, when the tougher times come in all of these things, it's about, what have I experienced and what have I learnt from those experiences. Certainly in my younger years, I was kind of a little bit almost over the top with it. You know what I mean? Almost flippant with the experience. But as I've matured, I sort of consider those experiences a little bit more often before I dive headfirst into them without some adjustments, if you know what I mean. But certainly for me, it's been a love of an adventure. I still think there's plenty of adventures to come.
There certainly are. Life's an adventure, all those cliches.
What is it, a daring adventure or nothing, Helen Keller?
Well, Vin, my hubby, he came up because, as you know, you have a love of climbing. I have a love of trail running. I've managed to not mention that in my podcast so far. So, because I need one of those signs taped on my back saying "Don't talk to me about running." But one of the things with trail running, and I know it'll be the same with climbing, is it's problem solving, and so you have to expect a problem. And there's going to be a challenge. And Vin said to me, it's not an adventure until something goes wrong. And I thought that is such a good saying. It's now like I'd have it on as a tattoo if I could.
Yeah.
But it's true. And it comes back to that whole thing about an adventure, be it climbing, be it property investing, be it business. You can guarantee something's going to go wrong. And do you find after, say, 20 years, 18 years of coaching people, would it be fair to say that a lot of people are looking for a problem-free investment ride?
Yeah, I think there's some misunderstanding about certainly property investing. It's huge misunderstanding. The idea that, I talk about this often, the idea of capital growth is if your property grows in value, you're a success. I think that's like vain and to be honest, quite one-dimensional. At the end of the day, nobody knows what the market's going to do. And anyone who tells you that is full of shit, basically. Excuse the French. But what we do know with a higher level of certainty, certainly not 100%, the longer you own something of good quality, the more likely your values will rise. That's the only thing we know, which is lots of data and information. So the game is, Tab, the game is go the distance, last man standing, right? Because the good time Charlies, come along and it didn't grow in value and they chuck their toys and go and cry in the soup and they want to be a victim and blame someone else and all this rubbish. It's just like a precursor to life. Get over yourself. Nothing that you ever do won't come without problems, and property is certainly, not one of those. You and I have done this many times. There's 15 or 20 people involved in one property transaction.
Yeah.
Or 15 or 20 different personalities and all of those sorts of things. And I think you and my friend Scotty Harris, says it quite well. What's a normal problem and what's a not normal problem. And there's huge amounts of normal problems in property. And I find rarely, after 18 years of coaching, that there's many abnormal problems. Like most of them are pretty normal and you'll get through, no problems, no issues. It's just the way it is at the moment. Interest rates up. Well, that's a normal problem. Who cares? Like that's what happens, Yeah. So, I think the ability for us to understand that there's going to be plenty of problems, but they're worth having. Problems worth having, because unless you're dead, you won't have any. Like that's the only place you won't have problems in your life, really.
And I mean, there's so many analogies around this stuff too. Like, what is that one? Opportunity or success comes disguised as hard work or a problem, which I totally believe is true. I think the amount of people that I meet that choose not to work with positive real estate are often people that are wanting an instant result, the secret sauce that nobody's going to know about, that'll propel them into some kind of success. But it's not, is it? It is hard work. It's boring.
Dull. Yeah, it's dull. Like you buy one, you're like, oh, I got to wait. Yeah, you do. That's how it works.
This is why we climb and run, right?
Yeah. I've said this a few times. The number one thing to do if you want to be a successful property investor is find a hobby. That's not got nothing to do with real estate, because once you buy your properties, leave them hell alone. Leave them alone. Yep.
The best properties are the ones you don't know you got, right? They just tick away. Yeah. And so if I was to delve a bit deeper, what is the process in your head? Because self-development is something that often gets tarnished with the foo-foo. You know, people say, oh, self-development, so Anthony Robbins, so American, so MLM, you know, like, and people can be very cynical about the self-development space, but I know it's one that you and I believe very strongly in, as far as being able to coach yourself and your emotional intelligence, your EQ. So what is the process? So there's a challenge for Jason, and it's a challenge that's going to demand a bit more of your attention. I know for me, when I have a challenge that is like that, often it starts off with me not sleeping. So I'll go through the thing of lying awake at night, and I try to coach myself. So I know there's no point in me trying to sleep. So I get up, have a cup of tea, try to make it not bigger than it is. And I have a process I go through. Do you have something similar where you know you have to break it apart? What does it look like to problem solve for Jason, who's practiced this over a long time, 2 decades?
Yeah, certainly. And I do 100%. Once I notice that I'm overreacting or over giving something more energy than I should, number one thing for me is give it some distance.
What does that look like?
Well, 99% of the time, there's nothing that you can do, nor should you do instantly when there are challenges and problems. Like, you know, unless it's life-threatening, you know, a lion's about to eat you. So, you know, number one, give it some distance, because you and I both know a bit of this science about our brains. You know, when we are acting in fight or flight mode, you become stupid, you become dumb, chemically dumb, okay? And it just makes you dumb. You don't want to think because your body needs to react, and you run away. Now, or you do something, you know, you lash out. In terms that we can all understand, we might say something. We might get on a forum and write something like this fucking keyboard warrior shit. Emails, you know,
emails and text messages.
Yeah, you might say something to someone you love because you're stressed or whatever. Like, so number one thing for me is give it some distance. Like, notice that there's a challenge and a problem. It's not life-threatening. Give it some distance, and then go through, you know, the things that you were talking about. Certainly, you know, I always like to get out into nature if it's a big problem, because I think really well when I'm in nature. Certainly sleep and some good hydration and you know, some food and those sorts of things are pretty important, you know. So absolutely go through that process, give it some distance. It's not going to end your life right this moment. Think through a few things, and if you get to that point where you're a little bit more balanced, a little bit more less triggered in the moment, then the next part is to go through pros and cons. Now, you and I have seen this from help me out here. Not Robbins, the other one.
Now you've asked me. I'm going to get totally blank too.
DiMartini. I just had a mental blank. DiMartini. But, you know, DiMartini, you go, you know, write down all the positive things about this, write down all the, you know, supposed negative things about this, pros and cons, and you can, you know, work through those things. I do that often. You know, and for me, it's important to understand, you know, get to the bottom of whether it's a real problem. There's some real major issue here that you've got to get ahead of, or you know, it's not really a major issue. You've just got to be aware of it. Last but not least, Tab, one, it took me a long time to get this as I matured, because one of my less excellent personal characteristics is to avoid conflict, and that's got to do with how I grew up. But so, you know, if there's something that you've got to go and do, I think you and I have talked about this many times, especially in business and whatever, you've got to ride out and meet it. The sooner you ride out and get it, the sooner you ride out and take it on, the sooner you ride out and confront it, whatever that is. You know, you catch it before it's big.
Kill a monster before it's a baby. Kill a monster when it's a baby. I always get that one wrong.
So, if you notice something, it's a problem, don't ignore it, or don't pretend it's going to fix itself, and, you know, get on it early. That's my process. I've been doing that stuff for a long, long time. And certainly, often when I give it some distance, that just often seems to fizzle into nothing else. I made it more than it should have been, and it wasn't really an issue.
And I know, like, you and I have coached people. You've had business. I've been part of your business, but I've certainly, you've had the responsibility of a business that has, looked after not only our team, but also a large cohort of clients through some tricky patches, GFC being one of them. And I remember there was a particularly tricky time. And I think most businesses had a bit of a tricky time through the GFC. And I remember you saying to me that when you had some tougher stuff to do to get the business through, you'd do it in the morning. You'd eat your frog in the morning.
Yeah.
Tell me about that process. So, because it was important that you gave yourself something to look forward to, but you had to sort some stuff quickly. Yeah.
Get it done. Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly sometimes we need to understand our mental and emotional capacity for making good decisions might be a prime window. And for me, prime window was in the morning, from about 8 until midday is a prime window for me. That's why I get up and I do my, live streams in the morning at 8 o'clock and so on. And once I'm sort of about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that I'm done for prime activity. Mentoring nights are usually a bit of entertainment and fun, but really I'm done and dusted. Any sort of major thinking or whatever, I'll put off till the next day. So for me, once you've sort of knocked over something large or eat the frog first thing in the morning, then you can sort of go, right, I can deal with some other stuff for the day. I don't have to deal with multiple problems, in a row. So for me, that was always a prime time where I could handle a little bit more stress and pressure. I call it redlining. In your day, your emotional, mental capacity, you can redline for a little while. You can rev the engine a bit past its safety zone, but not for too long. So
you got to put some more oil in the engine or whatever the analogy is.
Yeah. Drive it a little less intensely as you go. So that's always been a really good thing for me. One thing both you and I know about real estate, especially if you're a property investor, things happen slowly.
That's
it is
true.
not. It's not like the share market. It's not like other investment vehicles where things can happen like almost instantly.
Yep.
And that's what I love about real estate. It's just not death and bleeding instantly. Things can happen, at a reasonable pace, and you don't have to sort of, overreact in a moment. You can give yourself a little bit of space to troubleshoot and problem solve and work things out. So, that's I think that's been a sort of bit of a blessing, really, for the property world. That's for sure. Yeah.
And I think the other thing I know, having worked with you for so long, is you're always very active in looking for other mentors. You're always interested, and I think it's curiosity. I think as soon as to me, the definition of aging, and you and I joke about us becoming old bastards, but excuse the French, but we are over time slowly getting a bit older. I'm older than you, so I can say that. But the definition to me of aging is that, I can't think of the word now. Funny. The definition of aging is I can't think of the word.
Showing your age now.
When you calcify, when you stop being curious, when you accept things as they are, and to me, it's that sort of couch potato, but in your head, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I know about you is that you're very curious. So your curiosity, I think, has served you really well. Like, you're always looking to understand why somebody did something, how it worked out for them, how could you implement that, would it serve the business, the clients, your investing, wherever it sort of fits in. Would that be fair?
Listen, I've always loved learning right from an early age. Academics were I was not academic. I didn't particularly enjoy school in that sense. But I love learning it, and to this day, there's not a day go by where I'm not learning something about a subject or whatever it might be. It's never been easier in human history to absorb information and try to make your mind a little bit sharper and a bit more learned at the end of the day. It's an interesting one though. I heard this the other day, which is pretty good. I love the idea of connecting dots, like how things relate to each other. But you've got to be careful that you don't collect dots rather than connect dots when it comes to information, and sort of cherry pick things, when it comes to data and those sorts of things, which is quite cool. I like the idea of I'm trying to understand how things connect rather than collect bits of information that I can, regurgitate back in a very biased manner. Like we all have a bias, and you and I have chatted about this before. We have over the years, you have people sort of say to us, all right, well, I'm working with X, whoever, because they're unbiased. And you want to have a little fucking chuckle. Like that's a bunch of bullshit. What an absolute lie. You're kidding yourself. Nobody on the planet is unbiased in any way, shape or form. And if someone's so unbiased that they're going to give you what? Information? Some information that has nothing to do with you. At the end of the day, what you must understand is that everyone has an agenda. Everybody
saying that to me.
Everybody's got an agenda.
Working together.
Everybody's got an agenda. What you must know is that's cool. And does Tab's agenda align with my agenda so I can get the outcome? And we both know we've got agendas, and that's super cool. And don't kid yourself that someone's unbiased. That's a bunch of shit. It's just find the people who are moving in the direction with some skills or some talent or some services that you need, and get it done, because you need to manage your own. So when I realized that, that was a little epiphany many years ago, I stopped having these challenges about the world, like, everyone's out to get you and all this sort of rubbish. That sort of, it's a very poor psychology. It's actually a poverty psychology. Just understand everyone's trying to do their thing in their way, whatever that is. Understand, learn what it is, understand their motivations. That's why I love learning things about people and things, and then see if it fits, see if it's going to help you get you to where you want to go, or learn what you want to learn, or get what you want to get. If we can balance that up with some values decisions about making sure, we don't ruin the planet and all those sort of things, then it's a great way to roll, I think.
It's interesting. I know over the years I've coached people and they've said to me, well, explain to me how your business works, how Positive Real Estate makes money. And I've always welcomed those conversations. It's been because somebody is benefiting or getting remunerated from something doesn't make it bad or evil. Personally, I'm far more suspicious of somebody that expects me to give them advice and work hard for them and not get paid for it. I think that's like such an unequal conversation, situation in the universe.
There's no equal exchange.
Yes, and that makes me very suspicious.
Well, that's just not how things work, right? Nobody anywhere in the whole ecosystem of our economy does anything for free, and nor should they. It's ludicrous. You want a bunch of people who've got great skills to give away their stuff for free. It's an absolute. It's just ludicrous. It's just like okay. Well, let's not pay doctors. Let's not pay train drivers and see how that rolls. You know what I mean? Like everyone has a skill, and there's some value to that skill, and how they structure that to be remunerated is vast and multiple and amazing, and I love it. And that's the way it rolls. Those who have a challenge with that really have to ask themselves what the challenge is actually with, and it's actually with money. They've got a problem with money. They've got a scarcity mentality. And a poverty mentality. You cannot help anyone if you're poor. You've got no resources. You can't help a soul. Matter of fact, you're flat out helping yourself, and you become a burden to the very society that you believe, should be looking after you. In my head, if you can take care of yourself, that's at least one thing that, everyone else doesn't have to do later on, in that sort of space. But anyway, hopefully that was answering your question.
It was. And it was interesting because it all forms part of the psychology, because I remember when I first started on this journey, I understood I had to shift my psychology around what wealth and some of the stories I had around money, but I didn't know to what.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the questions that I should be considering. And I'm always looking for a fair exchange. Like, I don't mind paying people. And it's the same. I tell you where I often see it too, and you'll laugh at this one, is property management. People, like, I remember reading a Dolph DeRue's book, like years before I met you, years and years and years ago. Dolph DeRue's, for those of you that don't know, is kind of like the granddaddy of investing. Probably started in the 80s or something. He's got
the olden days.
Yeah, the olden days. And he was saying that he never shortchanges a tradesperson or a property manager, because the other people that look after your property and are looking after your asset. And if you're busy, like, trying to, I'll use this term, screw them down for like 1% or something, like, do the math. 1% will be like $200 over the year.
Yeah.
But now you've got somebody that feels like they don't have a fair exchange. Why do they want to look after your property for an for $200
not appreciated, not appreciated, whatever. Like, just think of that. You go, you go into work this week and you go, oh, listen, last week we paid you X, but this week, can you drop it? Like, it's like, putting in perspective. It's it just doesn't make any sense, does it? I mean, at the end of the day,
no.
Especially property managers, they do so much work in the world of property, and they spend more time in your property than you ever will in your entire life. You add up the hours that they spend looking after your property.
And it's nuts now with all the bylaws and everything. It's insane. And so it's not that you can't negotiate. Negotiating is a good skill to have, but it's understanding the value of something rather than the cost of something.
Yeah, and you find poor people go, "What's that going to cost?" What I'm going to. You mean I have to spend that much? It's like, and they're the wrong words. Words are powerful. How much am I investing, and what's my return? And what value? Invest, return, value. Okay, a poor person knows the price of everything, but the value of nothing, right? Because they don't understand it. You can't save yourself wealthy. Okay, and this is the thing. Like, money doesn't drive me. Like, I'm not like, I want $1 million. That's not what I do in my world. But I know many people who love the idea of $1 million, $5 million, whatever it is, it's their goal, which is perfectly fine. I don't judge that in any way, shape, or form. But what I do know when I'm measuring my progression is my ability, my financial ability to do the things that are important to me. Look after my family, make sure that, in the future, I can have a passive income, whatever it is. And, it's an interesting thing. You like you said, you don't know, you had to change your money story, but not necessarily what to.
Yeah.
And I had the opposite one for a while, and it took me a little while to reconcile it. It was like, all right, well, if it's not 5 million or 10 million, or I want to make $1 billion, then where do I fit that as well? Do you know what I mean? It's like, so it's just like, well, the idea of enough. I don't think that's a good word. I just need enough. Just the goal or the budget that you're aiming for. When you achieve it, then great. Then what is the plan after that? Is it to hold your properties and manage them and maintain them? Is there a couple of other little strategies along the way? I think it's so interesting to think through those stages as we grow. And for you and I, this sort of 15-year journey we've been on together in coaching, you can see these parts, these 3 or 4 parts that nearly everyone passes through, in their
It's
life,
true.
especially investing,
100%.
Yeah.
And now I know your time is valuable today. I know you've got a couple of things you need to do. Tell me, I've got a couple of questions for you. It's all right. I'm not gonna do anything mean. Your top 3 tips for people looking to start investing. What would you say to somebody that was keen to get started but was a bit nervous about it? Nervous of making mistakes, nervous of,
It's an interesting one. Right now, I would say choose a source of information and education that you like.
Yep.
And choose one source. This is the thing. People say, "Oh, go and shop around and read 65 books." No, what a terrible idea. Terrible idea. Terrible. Find one you like and get on with it. Because it's actually too much information, too much confusion at the end of the day. If you're starting, like the more information you try and absorb, the more analysis paralysis you will have. So my number one tip is, have a little look around, see if you find someone or a bunch of information that you quite like, and then choose to go deep on that one. That's what I would say. Don't go broad because you'll confuse the shit out of yourself, right?
Yeah.
You can go broad later, right?
Yeah.
Once you've got 1 or 2 or 3 properties under your belt, then you can take a breath. That's my number one tip.
Yep.
Number 2 tip is don't underestimate or overestimate how long it will take. Like, just be patient. Seriously. And it's hard when you're younger because you think, shit, I've been doing this for 3 months. When am I going to be successful? So, just know it takes time.
Yeah.
If you buy a property and it goes up in value, you just got fucking lucky. Don't kid yourself that you knew what you were doing. And just be okay with that. Be happy with it. Like, just go, yes, I got lucky this time, but be patient and don't underestimate or overestimate the time frames.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
And the third one is don't become a property investor if you don't have a long-term plan view. And I mean 15 to 20 year minimum. 15, because if you don't, and that's not important to you, you won't go the distance. Don't even bother starting until you're ready to go, yeah, I get it. In 15 or 20 years' time, this is what I want it to mean to me. This is the outcome that I'm looking to achieve. Because what will happen, Tab, you and I have seen this, is, someone young comes along, and someone starts. It was exciting to begin with, and then it doesn't go your way, APRA came along, 2017, property prices in many areas dropped 10%, right? And only because the data these days is so fast, you can see your bloody property price on a graph going up every 30 days, which is ludicrous. Don't look at it every 30 days. It's stupid. But, you and I know, and you and I know, like, more people than we would care to mention, that bought something. They were happy when they bought it. They were like so excited. And then APRA came along, property prices adjusted, and they chucked their toys and, property's rubbish, whatever. And they gave up. They sold their property, whatever it is, because they didn't believe in that 15 or 20 year view of what they were doing. They had a short-term view, and that's flawed. Don't be a property investor if you have a short-term view. Don't do it. You stuff it up for everyone else, to be honest.
You're a speculator.
You're a good time Charlie.
Yeah.
Good time Charlie, mate. Only here for a good time.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be in a property investor. Don't do it. Go muck around the stock market.
Yeah.
If that's who you are. So they're my 3. Hope they make sense. But yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. So then top books, what would be 1 or 2 or 3 books?
Crikey.
For mindset.
For
Because
mindset.
today we're essentially talking about mindset. So somebody and it doesn't have to be property related. It might just be what would be something that had changed your perception of?
Well, certainly Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Kiyosaki. I don't necessarily like Kiyosaki. I don't think, I don't get on with him. but I love what he wrote. I think it was super powerful, so relevant to a lot of people. And, his other books as well, the cash flow quadrants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Great educational pieces, foundational for me, certainly, across anything. It had not necessarily to do with real estate. If you ever get a chance, play the game, folks, the cash flow game.
We might have to do an online one with the clients.
Yeah, totally. But listen, anything by Kiyosaki in those early days was fantastic, in and around mindset. Gay Hendricks, and it's called I'm having a mental blank like you today. It's about upper limiting. I'll get it in a minute. If you search it, actually I could search it right now. We're doing live video.
Send it to me, and I'll put it in the notes in the podcast.
Okay, Hendricks. He's it's called The Big Leap. There it is. Yes.
What's it called?
Yeah, The Big Leap.
The Big Leap. I don't think I've read that one.
Oh, excellent book.
Okay.
And
there's one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Listen, I think a few things about being self-aware, things like love languages, the love languages book. If you haven't read that across the whole of your life, it's irrelevant of what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. The idea that understand, how you like things might not be how others likes things. And, that's something that's, pretty important, I think.
Very.
Yeah. And what else could I...
The corresponding apologies language.
Yeah. And
that was an eye-opener for me.
Yeah, totally.
I was like, I've apologized. What's your beef?
Yeah, I'm dead sorry. And probably an oldie but a goodie, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. I thought that was, for me, that was actually one of the books that started me on my development journey of myself many years ago, So there's a few off the top of my head.
Isn't it?
Yeah. But awesome. If you sink your teeth into those, you'll be
well on the way.
On a good start, exactly.
Okay, and now to really embarrass you, your best song, because I love a pump me up song. If ever I'm in the doldrums and I've got to get some stuff done and I'm avoiding it, I put on a very special song, and it's called Atom Bomb. It's Baby's Got an Atom Bomb, a 22 megaton. And we're all singing Baby's song.
Well, it's
so that's my song.
bit of Back in Black by AC/DC, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or sometimes a bit of Guns N' Roses, but that can be a little bit sort of, love songy, but and then a bit of country,
Oh yes, you like your country. That's
Kenny
where you
Rogers.
and I diverge. Awesome. We'll end on that note. But thanks, Jason. Really appreciated. Guys, I hope you get heaps out of that. Please listen and re-listen to that, because there were some gems in there. And really, when it comes to successful investing, it is about mindset and how you see the challenges and create opportunity from them. So thanks, Jace. Awesome to have you here.
It was great to hang out. Thanks for the invite.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Property Investor Tales. Remember to subscribe so you get notified every time a new episode drops. As you can guess, I love hearing people's property investor tales. So if you'd like to share yours, then please get in touch with me via email at propertyinvestortales@positivementor.com.au. We would also love your feedback, and I would appreciate a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Remember, you can watch all of these podcasts over on YouTube at Positive Mentor or at positivementor.com.au. Until then, take care, happy investing, and bye for now.